Have you been trying or struggling to draft sleeves that fit perfectly? In this detailed tutorial, I will show you the exact step-by-step process of drafting a sleeve pattern from scratch. It is easy to follow, beginner friendly. With this knowledge, trust me, you'll be able to draft any type of sleeve design. Welcome to the channel, guys. On this tutorial, we'll begin. The first thing we're going to be doing is to have our usual starting point. Now, in this starting point, on this pattern paper, I have both my front and back together, meaning I have divided the pattern paper into two. So one part of the pattern paper is going to be my front and the other is going to be the back. Now, I'll take the tape from the starting point. I will take my bicep. If you have been on this channel, you would see and understand what the bicep means. It is just from your shoulder to around your armhole, right? I would attach a picture so you understand how to measure that. Now, the next measurement will be from your shoulder to your elbow and then the shoulder to the sleeve length. I'm going to draw a point across so we can see the lines visibly. After you have done this, the next thing would be to do what? Label this pattern. So I'm labeling it the front and the back so you'd know which side I am working on. Now, on the front pattern, I would highlight that my bicep. The next thing will be the elbow and then the sleeve length, so we're just very clear on the particular lines we're going to be measuring. After that, I'm going to take my pattern master and draft it so I want to extend that line from the front to the back, right? So it is uniform and we can just go along and transfer from one part of this pattern paper to the other part of the pattern paper. Now, if you join it, so meaning you're going to join the bicep from the front to the bicep at the back, from the elbow at the front to the elbow at the back, and then from the sleeve length at the front to the sleeve length at the back. So now we have the same thing for the front and the back. The next thing will be to take a dress that you are working on. For me, I didn't have any dress, but for the sake of this particular tutorial, I took a top of mine that I have made before and I measured it. So you need to measure the front and you'd also measure the back. Now, whatsoever you get for the front, you take it and hold that in. You measure for the back. Whatsoever you get for the back, you take it and hold that in. For the front, I had 11.5. So that 11.5 is what I am going to take. So you can see me showing you on your tape. I'm taking that 11.5 across the line of my starting point to my bicep. You put that exact 11.5 on that line and you make a mark there. Once you make a mark there, the next thing you do is to take your ruler and rule across it so you can see that it is slanted. You rule that slanted line that you have taken with your measuring tape. This is the first part and this is where it gets really detailed, so please pay attention at this point. If you have not subscribed, please like, share, subscribe, support your girl, right? Back to it. Now we will divide that point. So you take your measuring tape and you place it across that point and divide it by 2. Once you've divided it by 2, you make a mark there, right? You make a point there. The next thing you will do is to take your tape again and come to one side of what you've divided by 2 and divide that side by 2 again. I hope we're understanding. So you divide that side by 2, you make a point there. You take it to the other side, the other half of that initial point, and divide it by 2. So you divided 11.5 by 2. Then you go to one side of 11.5, divide it by 2. You go to the other side, divide it by 2. It is not 11.5 for everybody. It is what the measurement you take, right, from your dress. Now, from that point, you go up by ½ inch, and the other point you divided, you go down by ½ inch. At this point now, what you need to do is to actually join this point together. You can use your pattern master or you can use your hand. Now you take your pattern master from the edge of your pattern paper to that 0.5 that you first of all made. Then you bring it down to where you divided 11.5 by 2, right? So I'm going to use my hand I'm going to use my hand and the pattern master just for people that don't have the pattern master, right? Now you take it, you meet the other 0.5 down that you made, and then you bring it back to the edge of your 11.5. This way you would have had a perfect curve, right? You can take your pattern master just to smoothen it, or you can leave it like that. So I'm just using my pattern master to smoothen out those curves and make sure that there is no sharp point, so that your sleeve can sit perfectly and sink in properly. Now, after you do this, the next thing would be to actually take the measurement of your elbow. That's the next measurement. But before that, you can decide to add your allowance, that's your sewing allowance, on the pattern paper, or you add it on your fabric after you cut. So just to be sure, you take your tape again to measure out that 11.5 and make sure that you have it. So if it's not enough, you can extend, and if it's too much, you can reduce. For mine, I had just about 0.5 inch bigger than 11.5, so I had 12 inches. So I marked back the 11.5, and then I want to add my sewing allowance on my pattern, so I added 1 inch for sewing allowance. Now the next thing will be to do what? Actually, now take your elbow measurement. Most times you would have measured it on your client or on yourself. So whatsoever you have in your elbow measurement, it can be 13, it can be 14. Mine was actually 14, so I'll take 7 inches on my pattern. Do we understand? So you take this measurement, measure around your client's elbow, take 7 inches. I will add 1 inch also for sewing allowance. The next thing will be to take my wrist measurement. Now the wrist measurement, you measure it on your client or measure it on yourself. Mine was 8 inches, so I'll divide it by 2 and put down 4 inches. After I put down 4 inches, I'll add 1 inch for sewing allowance, just like I did for every other thing. Now the next thing will be to join these lines together, and that is it. You are done with your front pattern, and you have your perfect sleeve that would sit in properly. Right now, after doing this, we haven't done the back, so we don't have our back sleeve yet. The next thing will be for you to do this same thing at the back, but with a little tweak. So the difference between the front and the back is just a little tweak, because normally when you are cutting on your pattern and you do your armhole measurements, for the front you come in by 0.5 inch, but for the back you don't come in by anything. You just join it together. So that is also going to play a part here. I'm still going to take the same 11.5 that I took for the front here, right? I will draw that slanted line to meet the starting point. I would also do the same thing. So if you did not understand the first time, this is another opportunity for you to understand the technicality of this point. It is quite straightforward. Divide your 11.5 by 2. Now once you divide your 11.5 by 2, you have a midpoint, right? Go from the starting line to that midpoint and divide it by 2 again. After you do that, you will now go again from that midpoint. You go from the midpoint to the end of that line and divide it by 2, meaning that at the end of the day, you have 4 points: the starting point, the midpoint, and then the last point. And that midpoint will be divided by 2. The other side will also be divided by 2. For the back, you go up by 0.5 inch also, but towards the end you don't go down by 0.5 inch like we did at the front. Rather, you go down by 0.25 inch. Please remember, 0.25 inch. You'd also join those points together just like we did at the front, right? Now once you join it together, meaning you take from that 0.5 inch to the midpoint, that's where you divided 11.5 by 2, you would also go down to where we have 0.25. Please, 0.25, not 0.5 for the end of the back, just the back, not the front. Please follow through. If you don't understand, rewatch it again. You would understand. So long as you follow through, trust me, you would understand. And with this pattern, you can literally get any other sleeve pattern from this. Once you can hack how to get your sleeve to sit perfectly, all you have to do is build up on this pattern to get every other style, every other design, and all of that. I hope we understand. Now, after this is done, the next thing will be to also add your 1-inch allowance. But before then, like I said, recheck and be sure that you have up to what you measured. For the back we measured 12-inch, for the front we measured 11.5. Now I had 11.5 here, so I had to add to make it 12, and after that I would also add my 1-inch sewing allowance. The next thing now will be to also take the round elbow measurement divided by 2 and add your 1-inch for sewing allowance, and also go to the sleeve length and also add your wrist measurement divided by 2 plus sewing allowance. So wrist measurement 4 divided by 8 divided by 2, 4 plus your sewing allowance, making it 5. Join all these points together, and at this point we're almost done, if not done. This is the back and this is the front pattern. Just like that, you would have drafted a perfect pattern. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe, like, share, support me, and I would do well to always bring the most detailed and simple step-by-step pattern just for you to understand. If this is something you enjoy, do well to give me a thumbs up. Bye.